Welcome, everybody, to the LCK 2021 Spring. Once again, we are here bringing you the action, and it is me, Valdez, with Proxy Wolf. Wolf, how are you doing today? Yeah, and I think you gotta turn on your mic, Wolf. I'm not sure if it's
there. It goes. There it goes.
Okay, there we go. Rough start. I'm calling you Proxy Wolf. We got mics muted, but we're ready to go. We got some good stuff here. Wolf, you mentioned some very eloquent, amazing, very interesting stuff. Maybe you want to go ahead and
I'll
mention it again.
We'll go into
got some points of the match.
We'll go into it as we go into our points of the match, right? This is a matchup that T1 on paper should absolutely win, right? There should be another 2-0 for T1. However, they have been struggling as of late, and Fredit BRION did take that upset win over KT Rollsters. They're looking to bring it back and take another win here against T1. There's a Game 2 jinx with T1. Could Fredit BRION jinx them as well? They're 1-6 on Game 2s right now, T1. And also, Faker is looking to get his 400th LCK win for the first time tonight. So, the first player to reach 400. That is the big question, if he can actually close that final gap to 400. And it will only take one win in this best of 3, so any of the 3 games. He's obviously starting tonight, so just hoping to get that one rolling in Game 1.
Yeah, it's, you know, the way it stands right now, yes, T1 have been struggling in this early stage of the spring season, but as you can see, Fredit BRION have been as well, and they have some other stuff affecting them tonight. We will get into that a little bit later, but T1 definitely going to feel pretty good about their chances, at least, coming into this match, and I'm sure the fans will at least expect them to take the win. You can see some of the stats here.
Yeah.
We don't have too many of them, but we have enough, and yes, Fredit BRION do have a nice win rate at when they have a gold lead at 15, but
you can see
it's only happened 4
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's happened 4 times compared to T1's 13 times they've had a gold lead at 15. You can see that T1 has struggled to close out a lot of those games, though. Usually when you have a gold lead at 15, you expect to win that, right? That's usually hitting 65 to 70% win rate for most teams, but for Fredit BRION, 3-1, so when they do get ahead in those rare circumstances, they are able to close out those games.
Yeah, and taking a look at the roster here, it's always fun when T1 is playing to pick apart the roster and discuss, you know, what you think. And this time around, they're going to run the same thing, right? Zeus is still up in the top side. We got LM Faker, Gumayusi, and Keria joining him once again. Yeah,
Gumayusi has been playing more of the hyper carry role. We've seen Teddy play more stable scaling champions, and the Xayah in particular. We'll see if when they go to red side in Game 2, if he gets subbed back in. And today we have a very special substitution for Fredit BRION because Lava is actually having health issues today, unrelated to COVID-19. He's unable to join us, so Chieftain will be stepping in as per the LCK rules. He will be, kind of forced to off-roll into the mid lane. So very unfortunate that Lava will not be joining us tonight, especially because I think this is a series that Fredit BRION absolutely could have upset in, and it's still possible, don't get me wrong, but it is going to be very difficult with an offlaner here in Chieftain.
Yeah, and I think if Fredit BRION upset T1 with Chieftain in the mid lane up against Faker, maybe the League of Legends world would just explode because, there would be a lot of unhappy T1 fans, especially. And either way, we're going to take a look here at this key player matchup, the supports down in the bottom side. You can see that Keria, extremely aggressive, as you can see here, very high forward percentage, but also a very low duo proximity, whereas Delight is kind of, the traditional support, sticks by the AD carry side, and is always part of every fight. He has the highest kill participation of any support, and that might be Delight's play, but it also could be Fredit BRION's play because, you know, they kind of just ball up as a team and look for team fights more often than not.
And it's also important to note that even though he has a much lower duo proximity, Keria has 16 duo kills, so he's actually successful in lane, and then he roams more often, right? So he's actually able to turn his lead in lane into successful roaming. Yeah, at least it was successful or not, he's roaming more often because of it. So we'll see how this matchup does shake out in the bottom side of the map. I expect that with Gumayusi and over Teddy, that Kai'Sa priority is probably going to be there on the blue side if it's left open for T1. And I'm very excited to see if Zeus gets his Gnar again. I was very impressed with his opening debut earlier this week, and I'd like to see him kind of continue that momentum. His Gnar was, for me, by far the most impressive champion that he played.
Absolutely, and I think that based on that Gnar performance and just the day that he had, people were relatively impressed, right? There's a lot of talk about this player, about how fantastic he is in solo queue, this young up-and-comer, and he didn't necessarily disappoint. He had a great first start there. And you can see over here on the side of Fredit BRION, it's Chieftain. He's already looking a little bit nervous, you know.
He's having problems getting his hair
exercises.
tied. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's the issue.
Yeah, he wants to make sure his hair doesn't get in his eyes. I used to have really long hair, if you can believe it, and I used to actually have to have a headband when I was fenced to keep the hair out of my eyes because I couldn't touch my hair and brush it away because I had a fencing mask on. I know the feeling. His hair's not that
I don't know,
long.
man. This isn't going to work. Like, I don't know what to tell you, Chieftain.
This ain't it, Chief.
Okay, well. Yeah, exactly. Well, we all know who's got the best hair on the Rift now.
Yeah, we certainly do.
He's got that going for him, but again, he is playing up against Faker, and imagine in your first, I would imagine it's his first mid lane debut.
It is,
at
yeah.
least.
I looked into it.
And
He's
he's
never
going
played
up
it.
against the great one, right? The unkillable Demon King and Faker, and we'll see how he handles that stress because it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, it is certainly going to be a really tough game for Fredit BRION, and I think that, you know, you could see based on the expressions across the board for this team, I think the pressure is being handled differently. You know, some players are taking this as a, well, this is going to be really tough, you know, even if we lose it, people will understand. I think on the other sides of the Rift, you know, for Fredit BRION, some of the players looking a little bit stressed out. Umpty in particular, definitely one of those players that looks like he is very frustrated with the current situation with Lava's health condition today. Talking about Chieftain in the mid lane, by the way, I looked up his solo queue stats just to see if he ever dabbles in the mid lane. In 3 weeks of play, and I looked at every game he's played on his main account in the last 3 weeks, he has played 2 games of mid. They were both Syndra. One of them was a loss, but he's only played Syndra. He has played like 3 games of AD carry as well. He's played Lucian, so maybe Lucian mid could be an option for him if they go AP jungle, but this is a player who is not well versed in mid lane right now, so you know, you hate to say it, but it's the truth. I mean, I looked into it deep, and this guy has very little experience playing mid lane.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that because when you're playing solo queue, obviously you got to pick 2 roles, right? And everybody's got that off role that they play, but maybe for Chieftain, it's not mid lane based on 2 games only in 3 weeks. And we're taking a look here at the draft, of course. The Seraphine priority has shot through the roof. We've seen a lot of mid-lane Seraphine now, and people are just beginning to realize that, hey, she's pretty broken even in pro play. So also get that Azir ban against Faker. They don't want him to play that one.
Yeah, that's been a targeted ban towards Faker. It's his most played at 5 games this season, and he has kind of brought this champion back to the forefront in the meta. We see the Olaf ban, the Nidalee ban, both of those targeted towards Umpty for Fredit BRION. So we could see jungle priority here in first pick, as I like the targeted Gnar, but I think T1 should take the Kai'Sa pick here. It's Gumayusi. It's a pick that he's strong at, and it's going to be the Taliyah hover here with that one left open, and they will take that away first.
Okay, pretty interesting. You mentioned the Gnar ban. It does a couple of things. It takes away Zeus's pick, obviously, but also it does leave you with one of these OP picks that you can pick for your team. So you give over the Taliyah, T1 make that trade. They also get Rel. So, Bro, knowing the correct priority on Rel, this support champion, is pretty insane right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is a champion that is extremely strong with a lot of different champions. As Gumushi looking towards that hyper carry Aphelios. We've seen him play it so many times. It's his most played champion. It's where he had his pentakill. He has been phenomenal on this champion. And, you know, they leave the Kaisa to get the Taliyah. You'll take that when you have to target ban the Samira, you know, which is another pick that he's been great at. The Azir and the Gnar all at once means that you get to get both the Taliyah and also this Aphelios Thresh rotation here. But you've also banned away the Seraphine, so the lane feels fairly stable. You know, against a Kaisa Rel, you feel like, okay, this is definitely a lane where things can go bad if we overextend, but it's a very passive lane for T1, where Aphelios just farms up, and if the roams are good, like they normally are with Taliyah, the ganks come through. When you see those ganks coming through from Taliyah, sometimes that lane can snowball, and then you see the turret plates go down, and it's a very strong start here for T1.
Absolutely. Gumushi and Carry are both insane on those individual picks, so just in that fact alone, and outside of the fact that it's such a fantastic duo in the bottom side that they've already proven they can play, is pretty nice, as we do see the Udyr third pick here for Fredit BRION. So they don't pick a mid laner. They don't ban a mid laner either.
Yeah.
No other mid laners are getting banned here. I feel like Chieftain, if he knows how to play it, you know, Orianna is not that difficult. I think that would be a fantastic addition to this lineup with Udyr and Rel already. Gives you some really nice team fight composition. If I'm T1, I would just kind of ban that away, but they might have more information about Chieftain's mid lane play than I do.
I mean, he might have.
That's for sure.
He might have played it in some scrims, right? And there might be some of his Smurf accounts floating around that aren't official, right? That we can't easily track. So there's an opportunity for him to have some hidden picks, but the Syndra's the only one he's played in the last 2 weeks. And she's kind of fallen off the meta a little bit in the last few weeks of play, as we see the Malphite ban here. So they are really, targeting some of these top laners away. The Malphite's kind of a weird one because, you know, with the bans you see on the Gnar, the Renekton, as there's the Syndra, Gnar, Renekton, Camille. It's like, okay, now you're gonna ban away the stable, slow top laner in the Ornn. The Malphite is kind of a weird one. In terms of banning that one away, because it could be played, you know, top, it could be played mid, but they do obviously take the Syndra now. A weird ban there.
Yeah, and I think this might just be a little bit of champion pool issues, right, with the Syndra. But we'll see what he does with it. You know, it's not bad, but I think there was a better choice, and Jace will be the choice here for Zeus. So pretty cool to see. I mean, we're hovering a set. Maybe that's just to carry a troll, but would be interesting if they tried to go for like some heavy front line. They're thinking about it anyway with stuff like the Galio, and we might see Faker playing one of Set or Galio in the mid lane. That would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'd love to see Faker's Set here, and I think we will with the lock-in. And it's going to be a matchup that can be very terrifying for the Syndra, especially with Taliyah as the jungle, because her speed to gank the mid lane and roam and catch him can be very, very difficult to deal with. And then we see the Scion coming through. Pretty stable answer in the top lane. Pairs well with the Rel. You know, we've seen that already quite a few times. So I do like this. I would have liked the Orianna so much more for the synergy that it brings with Udyr to set up for some really nice shockwaves, but I mean, Chieftain, he's a player, he's a jungle player, right? And he's been unfortunately pushed into this mid lane just by substitution rules, emergency substitution rules forcing him into this position. So he's going to play what he has played twice in the last 3 weeks of solo queue because it's what he knows best. And sometimes that you can't fault someone for that. I mean, it's a emergency situation, but I look at the draft of T1. I look at how powerful it is at controlling the bottom and mid side with the Taliyah pick, the set pick as well. It can roam down. And if Gumushi gets ahead and gets turret plates, this game just opens up so quickly for T1.
Absolutely. And honestly, we might just see that. But I'm excited to see what Fredit BRION has prepared today, right? You mentioned the unfortunate circumstances, but who knows? This is where they've performed best, right? This is how they beat Damwon Kia. It's when they had no pressure because there were zero expectations. Everybody was like, well, absolutely nobody in this entire world expects us to take down Dalmonkia tonight, but we were able to 2-0 them. So maybe they can come into tonight with kind of the same mindset and say, you know, T1, they're on the up and up. It's Chieftain against Faker. Let's see what we can actually do in this game. So I'm really curious to see how game number 1 is going to go. I hope it's not just an all-out stomp like we had yesterday. It was a very fast day, but we'll have to wait and see. We're going to hop onto the Rift here for game number 1 and see how these two teams duke it out.
Yeah, and we do have KT roster against Afrika later on. I don't think that'll be a stomp. So, you know, look forward to that one too if this one ends up being a stomp and you're like stuck in that 30-minute break.
Chieftain's like, okay, I'm going to run it into the tower.
He's like, let's see how much I can convince them I'm really not a mid laner.
Yeah, what does this thing do?
Well, he went stopwatch, so he's going to have some extra safety, which against the set I do appreciate. Yeah, it's going to be very scary what Faker is able to do post 6 when LM has 6 as well. Because with the wall riding, LM can get to the mid lane so quickly. Which means Chieftain can't really ever push. I don't think he's ever going to have lane prio. Even though it's Syndra versus Set, the range that you have there, sometimes you can actually kind of start poking him down and get a big lead. He's going to be very careful about how much he could push the envelope in that mid lane because of the Taliyah. And, you know, obviously Udyr can rotate very quickly as well, but doesn't have the same sort of early ganking potential that Seismic Shove is going to give you. The burst damage that Taliyah has is insane. And part of the reason why she has an incredible early on, but once Faker gets level 3, can start to maybe look for some more aggressive trades, and the Taliyah factor is going to become more real. The bottom side of the map too, before level 2 and even before 3, it's obviously very difficult for Rel to be involved in the lane, but once she hits 2, and she can attract Repel, and is going to be able to do a lot more. But the lane being shoved already is just going to be a nice early lead for Gumayusi, so ends up being a great start here for T1 on the bottom side of the map, and I think this mid lead that Chieftain is going to have right now is going to only be temporary.
Yeah, you would imagine. Syndra, definitely a champion that if you're comfortable with her mechanics, you can get a nice little lead early on, right? She's not super difficult as long as you know how to land your skills and how they interact with each other. So if he's got some practice on that, you know, he can kind of just push lanes, get out of Faker's way, try not to interact, and then maybe just wait for the later game where we do get
up. He backs very early, gets a tier, so he's going to be able to, you know, build his mana up early in this game, just further that ability to shove and kind of spam abilities at range. Obviously, it gets a lot harder post 6, where Faker can actually commit to engages and all-ins and pair that with the Taliyah. The top lane is, you know, a pretty annoying matchup for the Scion as well early on, but Hoya is actually keeping this shoved and holding his own up here. Very impressive. Trying to zone Zeus out.
Yeah, it's another one of these Scion matchups where he's just a big beef ball, and the Jace will put on pressure early, especially on that first serrated Dirk, and then after that, Hoya will just get a bunch of tanky items and be able to survive a lot better. So, as you mentioned, very true, that early game is going to be pretty nice for Zeus. We'll see what kind of advantage he can push. The mid lane, I feel like, you know, Chieftain's doing a fine job so far.
Yeah.
You know, nothing really going wrong just yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of pressure on this guy, a lot of people judging his ability here because he has big shoes to fill in Lava, you know, who's had ups and downs, but he beat Showmaker, right? So
yeah.
There's not enough for a 6 here for Chieftain, but he is just going to keep stacking tier, and Faker is extremely low. And Talia, you know, is not able to join up or make any sort of impact at this stage. You know, still doesn't have level 6. So he's able to do this with impunity. Faker's not missing CS, though, under turret. He's actually staying really even, despite the fact that Chieftain is just spamming him. He actually built magic resistance as well here.
Yeah. This is all you want to see from the set, right? Oh, he missed the cannon. But I'm not going to feel too bad about that, because, of course, it's a jungler in the mid lane. So, nice try. Faker is not going to be able to spot him. Level 6 hit first here, of course, from Chieftain. Winning there so far, at least in terms of the XP, but just a small amount. And nothing really has happened.
Yeah.
There's been some extra pressure down on the bottom side from Gumayusi and Keria. They've been having a little bit of priority, some fun times down there. Both of the junglers just farming it out. Neither one decides to go for an early gank. Umti is thinking, rather. I gotta get used to that.
We're all still getting used to that.
Yeah. He was thinking about a gank, but not going to happen this time. And because Umti is spotted out, that does mean that the scuttle does go the way of Ellen, who's having just a fine grand old time farming it out as well.
And it also means that you can see Gumayusi is pushing hard when they see that, you know, Umti's on the top side of the map. You can just continue to put a ton of pressure onto those turret plates and harass in the bottom lane, as Ellen is getting very greedy here, does not yet have 6. So it's not going to be a huge game changer, but 6 is up for Umti.
Oh! The last little bits of that Infernum nearly tickled Rel's back there, but not quite enough, as Hoya face checks here. Is going to ult into Zeus, and we'll see if he's got any damage. He does have flash, but with Umti coming up to the top side, it looks like they want to convert. We got action everywhere. The miss on the play does come in, but they're just going to leave Delight to die. Not much they can do to save him. Nice dive from the T1 bottom lane, and that priority really helping out down there.
You know, this composition for Fredit BRION is a comp that's designed to kind of be stable, right, and scale up, and you look for some objective fights later on, but the synergy between, like, the biggest, you know, standout that doesn't have great synergy, as they're going to get another plate here, is the Udyr pick, right? Because it doesn't, you know, there's no Orianna ball to attach to that. You know, it can work well with, you know, Hoya's engage. If he gets the follow-up stuns, there's a lot of damage to be done. Kind of gets onto that target that gets, you know, multi-stunned. But I mean, I'm kind of reaching at grasping at straws here, as we're going to watch the all-in onto Delight. There's just no way to survive this one. There's nothing you can do. Nobody is anywhere near him. He's on an island.
Yeah, he shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
You know? He was on vision, just back, dude.
And like now this bottom lane is just going to start to get out of control with all the extra gold that got fallen into Gumayusi. It was already a big problem, and it's just going to get worse. And, you know, if it gets worse quickly enough, then you just see the lane swap come through. He gets the top plates, and we've seen it a million times. Uh-oh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, no.
And Umti doesn't notice, but he's just going to have his back delayed here. I wanted to note how this mid lane is going, and you can kind of tell already that Chieftain's like, you know what? I think I'm just going to let you kind of have your way. And, you know, he doesn't have any vision, so if Talia's there and he gets ulted, even if he flashes, he's probably dead. So it's the right play. It doesn't have to just be that he's nervous or he's confident in the matchup. It's just he's doing the right thing. You gotta play it safe. And respect the set.
I appreciate it, you know, because post 6, that's when Faker really can actually threaten to kill him non-stop. And I mean, you don't have vision control over the map, which they really do not have. You just can't take chances. And he's only 3 CS behind because in the early parts of the matchup, he pushed the limits so hard. You know, he constantly harassed, he constantly was forcing that wave in. And you can see just how scary it is right now. I mean, he's probably going to die here.
Yep, there it is. Just the follow-up, and Chieftain does not have a way to get out of this one. He throws his ultimate into LM, but not much he can do. And he was playing it well up until then. And now on the bottom side, Delight just going to get caught out here. Good follow-up from Keria, gets him in the box, lands that death sentence, and that's exactly what it was for Delight in the bottom side. So T1 making the most of this game so far. You can see trying to get in there, and an excellent seismic shove is going to deny that stun for quite a while. And LM, with his 2 buddies, will eventually be able to take out the Scion and the Zombie Scion. Nothing is going right for Bro, and everything is going right for T1 here as they're ahead 4,000 gold.
Yeah.
10 minutes into the game.
I mean, I think this one is all but locked up, unfortunately. I mean, like, now Gumayushi has the ability to just do whatever he wants. And the fact that they had a solid engage onto him and he still traded it back, and they ended up getting the kill there with a really nice hook coming through, is just showcasing the desperation out of the bottom side of the map. Like, they can't make anything happen. Even in their perfect, or as close to perfect as they can get scenario, they still aren't able to trade up. They still end up losing Delight, who's now 0-2. And Gumayushi is fed beyond belief at this stage of the game. Like, if Elias gets this ahead this early, it just becomes so difficult to lock him down. And at least they are, you know, not losing the rest of their turret plates right now. They're trying to hold stable here, but it is just... it is going to be hard. And unfortunately, Umpty has just not been able to make any impact in this lane. And I don't think he will. So we're going to watch this. I think this bottom exchange, once again, or no, we're going to watch Chieftain. This is actually the sad one to watch. But, like, he doesn't know where LM is. He doesn't have vision. And all it takes is a flash engage from Faker. I mean, it's just that easy. With the Talia pick that they left open. And now, yeah, this is Delight coming in. Tries to set up for the Attract Repel. It's a nice stun. But the damage output is just too high at this stage for Gumayushi. And the peel is there. Keria gets the hook. And that's all you need.
Yeah, and he's also level 5 up against double level 6, so I'm not really sure why they're forcing that engage, to be honest. It looked nice, but we saw the result of that. Amazing seismic shove here, perfectly timed from LM. Gets both the Udyr and the Scion off of Zeus' back, so he's able to survive. And then it's pretty easy once Faker does get that first roam from the mid lane, the priority that he has built for himself. And, yeah, here we are.
Here we
This
are.
is kind of the way this game is going to go. And, you know, it didn't have to be this way, you know. Just because Chieftain is subbing in for the mid lane as a jungle player doesn't mean that the bottom lane had to get dumped as hard as it did. Doesn't mean that, you know, the Udyr pick comes in and basically does nothing. You know, questions about the draft. So there's stuff for Bro to try to come into the next game and actually look to improve on. That doesn't include, oh, well, Chieftain lost to Faker. Like, that's not the story of this game.
Yeah, when you draft Udyr early in the draft, you really have to draft around it, or else it's just so difficult to execute. And when you're picking Udyr into the Talia, it feels like you're just asking to play the game with one hand tied behind your back in a lot of ways. When you have the Syndra pick that isn't going to synergize with that later on, I mean, sure, it can be good in team fights if you hit big stuns. You know, Scour the Weeks can be game-changing in some of those choke points, especially when you have Rel stuns and Magnet Storms. So they don't have vision.
Yeah, nice beat here. We do have the Talia up on the top side, but again, Hoya pretty tanky. They're also committing a teleport here as the wave is pushed into the mid lane. And Talia is fantastic about disengaging. She just runs away from you and throws some rocks at you. And now down on the bottom side, again, looking to force a fight when you're this far behind is just not a good idea. That's something we've all seen before. And now they're just going to throw the Rift Herald down mid lane just to add insult to injury. This game feels a bit over.
Yeah, we've reached the OVER status. Double charge for the Rift Herald. They don't, you know, the Aphelios isn't able to get all bot plates and then rotate to the top plates. His plates fade here at 14. But it is still a massive lead, you know, a 40 CS lead. Kraken Slayer is completed. He's about to go buy, he's going to buy more. I don't know what his current gold is. We just saw it. I wasn't looking because I was looking at total gold difference, which was extremely high. And the hook hits here, so you feel like, okay, maybe we can engage. They even flash commit in to get the Attract Repel and the you know, ultimate comes through from the Kaisa, but like, just because they don't have hook doesn't mean that you actually win this fight, especially because he could just flay you. Thresh is so good against that sort of hard engage because he's just like, nah. Almost 2,000 turret plates to gold to nothing.
Oh no, Chieftain, not like this. He doesn't have Scout of the Week. Looks like he was able to slow down Zeus enough for this W. But, yeah, that's kind of where we're at. And, man, this is what all of yesterday was as well when I was casting with Chronicler.
Yeah.
And we're having a little bit of that here as well.
I mean, this is like this has got to be so cathartic for the T1 fans, though, right? This is the game you're like, yes, we are so good.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. As I mentioned before, it's not just all about Chieftain, so you should feel pretty good about this scenario. All the lanes did very well, the jungle as well.
I mean,
able to follow up very nicely.
Yeah. T1 are, I mean, they're not going to get the turret plates, but they are going to feed Gumushi a turret. Humpty is here, and they didn't know about it, but I don't know if this matters. Okay, the teleport is coming through. Let's see how T1 gets out of this one.
All right, well, Faker, he's the veteran. He's the big brother. He's going to sacrifice his life to get his teammates out of there, and he's not even going to die because we have action on the bottom side. And now is where the real pain will begin. We've got teleport coming in, and Zeus is about to bop some heads. Faker now, 3-man haymaker, just able to get on in there and break some faces. And, well, this is just a rout. Everybody's running away.
Where you going, Hoya?
Look at that wall. He can't even run to the right. Really, really nice here from Talia, from LM. Able to pick up a triple kill in that fight.
Yeah. And
we're looking at it.
I think so. I was literally going to say it right before this happened, and then I was like, well, let's wait a little bit longer. Then I saw Faker, and I thought, oh, the perfect game is ruined. But he escapes. Is just able to walk away. He has Chem Tank. He's insanely fast. It's very difficult to kill a Fed set as well in general, especially when everyone else is like, look at how much damage they do to him, or how little damage they do to him, I should say. He just ults out, then face breaks, and continues to walk away. And then they're like, oh, well, we shouldn't waste our time on this because we're losing a 3v2 on the other side. Teleport comes through from Jace. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. The turret's not going to last. It goes down. This is just a big disaster. I mean, the sad part about this for Fredit BRION is you're trying so hard to make a play. Like, everything was set up for them to hopefully catch T1 with their pants down. Maybe T1 make a mistake, and it just doesn't happen. This is a tragic ending. Yikes. Yeah. I think this is a perfect game. I think you're right. I think this is where we're headed, potentially the first one of the split.
Yeah, it's looking like that, Wolf. This is, you know, I mentioned how it was kind of like yesterday, but this might even be more one-sided than yesterday. We had our most one-sided match yesterday, and now we might be updating that tonight with a literal perfect game. And there weren't even any turret plates taken.
No, none. So, like the perfectest game, potentially.
Once we started to add more objectives like turret plates and rift heralds, everybody, you know, some people were like, oh, well, it's not a perfect game. They got two turret plates in the bottom lane. Well, you know, you don't technically need to get that for a perfect game in our minds.
I agree. I agree.
If you do, if you get literally everything, that is pretty cool. The fact that, you know, your opponents didn't get any turret plates, not a single Rift Herald, not a single Dragon. And that might just happen here. I mean, T1 aren't wasting any time. They're really looking to roll this, and it's already 13,000 gold lead.
It's a double
at
charge
18
here,
minutes.
too, for the second Rift Herald for Shirley in there. So, I mean, right now, like, the next fight comes up in 90 seconds, the Drake fight. And can you even hope to contest it at this point if you're Fredit BRION? The answer is no. And if you try to put Henna in a side lane so he can try to get more farm, I mean, he's still only 40 CS behind, which, considering where we are, is pretty impressive. You try to put him in the side lane, he's actually just going to soak mid, where he can for the moment. Like, if he just wants to go out and get more farm, he's at risk of being killed by Atelier at any moment. They don't have any vision on the map. Like, look at the vision, the deep wards you see on the red side of the map. There's a ward on Baron, which isn't even up yet, and they have the scuttle control. But you can't even really walk past the jungle of the map for Fredit BRION right now. So how are you going to even farm up to try to hope to catch up in this game? It is, I mean, at this point, you're just hoping that T1 really mess up some fights, or if they're trying to make a statement and they try to go a little bit too greedy, get a little BM. I mean, that's really what you're praying for right now.
Yeah. That's never a good spot to be in. I suppose because there's not much else to talk about in this game, we can kind of talk about Chem Tank and how awesome it is. Oh, all the tanks build it nowadays. You just build it. Even some tank supports build it. It's just so good.
Are you a tank or a Chem Tank?
Yeah, exactly. We're going. Is Chem Punk a thing?
I think that is a thing. Steampunk is the one you think of, but Chem Punk sounds like a thing.
Yeah, maybe it's just Riot's name thing. Like maybe Riot is a thing. As this is not a thing.
Jay's soloing Drake, by the way.
Yeah, why not? They don't need a jungler to do this.
Zeus is just like, all right, well, if you guys are gonna try to 5v4 and fail, I guess I'll do this. This game is just so sad. We're potentially gonna look at like a 15,000 gold lead here once these turrets go down. I think that actually might happen.
Yeah, we were almost at like a higher gold lead than the amount of minutes played in the game, like per 1,000, right? It was like 13,000
yeah.
at 18 minutes. I'm like, whoa. I don't know if we've had this kind of lead before. This is like a solo queue game at this point. And, you know, bro tried hard. They tried their best.
You can see how much of an impact it makes, too. Like, to have just one player who has a small champion pool. Like, whether it's a sub or not, because obviously Chieftain, I felt like he played the early parts of that lane really well, but he, like, even Lava would have had problems with the Syndra and staying alive and being relevant post 6 when, you know, Faker can all in, Talia's there. Like, even Lava would have had problems, but you could see, like, it's a champion pool issue more than it's a player issue, I think, in this game. You know, because there weren't any, like, glaring mistakes from Chief in this game where you go, oh, this guy does not know how to Syndra, he does not know how to mid lane. But when you can't draft the Orianna because it's a little bit more complicated, like, Orianna's not that hard to play, but at the pro level, there's some things you really need to have practice. You need to have synergy with, you know, Umpty, the jungle that you are sub for normally, to be able to set up those balls and shockwaves, and you just see how much of a big impact it makes on a game like this where things could just get out of control because you had to pick a Syndra and your comp doesn't work.
Yeah, it was kind of bad, but let's see what they can do. Umpty gets a bit caught. There's the Chem Tank, and welcome to Set's world. You know, we talked about how a lot of these tanks are enjoying the Chem Tank, but it's just really good as we see time and time.
What kind of chemicals are they putting in that tank?
I don't know, man, but whatever it is, it feels good for whoever's using it.
No side effects, just a long cooldown. Okay, one chance, one hope here for Fredit BRION. He is isolated.
Oh no. He's supposed to be the tanky one. He was the chosen one. Oh, this is just...
Can they stop the perfect game? Okay, there it is.
Oh no, they stopped the perfect game. They killed Zeus. It happened. And I almost feel like that was their goal. You know, they just went in there and they just bullied one guy. The relatively not tanky Jace, of course. They burst him down, and that means we don't have a perfect game. T1 will have everything on the map, including denying all turret plates, except the one kill that they did give over to Fredit BRION. But they get the Baron here as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a great front line with T1's composition. Their comp is the biggest glass cannon ever, but it doesn't matter because they're so ahead. The damage output is insane. You just kill anyone who tries to collapse onto you. Zeus is caught on the bottom side by himself, and they all rotate in. And this actually would be, you know, we'd say it was a bad decision in terms of the positioning there in a fight like this if this game actually was winnable or, you know, if there was any way to turn this around. But hey, they prevented the perfect game. They got Zeus, and that was all they were ever going to get. Not a great way to disengage there either after Sion died. And I think this is just walking down the red carpet here for T1 at this stage.
Yeah, they just need a rumble to finish off that metaphor, and they're gonna catch Syndra. Down goes Chieftain. Not much he can do. They're gonna root down Hoya, and the push will continue with the Baron buff. Umpty, he's kind of just going for a run. You know, during this Corona time, it's difficult to get your exercise, but Umpty's finding a way to do it. As T1, they're just they're not going to be 2BM, but they will fight if they want to engage here, Fredit BRION, and T1 will be looking for these kills as Faker will hunt down Henna, Koya will also be taken out. Umti gives the big thumbs up. And that's going to do it for this game, guys. 24 minutes of pure domination in favor of T1 as they absolutely clap Fredit BRION here in game number 1.
Yeah, Zayas with 2 deaths, you know, does die the second time there, but he did his job very well. He played the Jace matchup extremely well, and this was a draft issue more than anything else, but the execution was really solid out of the Talia. And for me, like, I know a lot of people are really excited about Cuz this season, but I think Elam is fantastic. This is Faker's 400th win as well, by the way. We didn't really talk about it too much outside of the opening because this game was so it was about Fredit BRION losing, but look at how much further ahead he is. Def just had 301. He's 99 wins ahead at this stage. Like, just think about that for a second. Think about that for one moment, that Faker has won 400 games of the LCK. He's played 600, over 600, so he's got, you know, a really high win rate as well.
Yeah, it's really insane. I mean, you think about the amount of games that these players play in a spring split, or any kind of split, right? It's a double round robin, so they have 18 best of 3s, and, you know, on average, that's about, what, 2.5 games, right? So,
yeah,
I'm not going to do the math, but it takes a lot of seasons, right? It's like,
yeah,
2-3 seasons, maybe more,
and back
to even get 100 wins, and that's how far he is ahead of Deft. So,
and back when Faker started playing, you know, there were winter seasons as well. You know, and it was a tournament format, but he played a lot more games because his team did very well and got to the ends of the tournaments, right? So, I mean, Faker has an insane legacy, and it's crazy to see 600 games later, and, you know, almost 8 years after his debut, that he is still kicking. He is still crushing. He plays set in the mid lane, wins it, dominates, and this is a game where it's hard to pick a player of the game. I didn't even send my vote in yet. I've got to do that, but this game is hard to even really describe because it was just T1 making no mistakes, taking their advantages and pushing through, and Fredit BRION playing without a mid laner. It's just, it's going to be a hard game. It's going to be no matter what.
He did the most damage on his team. He poked out the set a lot. That's kind of what happens in range versus melee matchups, but at least we can give him that. And, you know, they didn't even get a chance to get to a part in the game where their composition even really mattered, right?
Yeah.
They just got dunked on in every lane, the jungle lost, and it was kind of over from there. So we'll see what they have in store for the next game. I don't even think that T1 feel like they have to ban away the Syndra, even though that seems to be Chieftain's only pick there. They seemed very confident to take down that easy win there in game number 1. But we're going to take a quick break, guys. When we come back, we'll have game number 2.
그럴 수 있고 뒤에 우딜 있는 것만 생각하자.
우딜은
우딜은 신경 안 써도 돼. 우딜 노플이야.
너 상대하고 걸어야 돼. 상대하고
내가
걸어.
끌어줄게. 내가 끌어줄게.
상대하고 걸어야 돼. 안 걸어도 돼.
받았다.
우디를 뒤에.
야 끝내 빨리 끝내. 빨리 점프.
깜빡 둔거 같은데? 힐 다 먹어. 야, 나 죽는다. 나 만화 없다. 이제 쓰면 돼.
야 이거.
아, 대체 왜 이렇게 많냐.
Legends never die when the world is calling you. Can you hear them screaming out your name? Legends never die, they become a part of you. Every time you play far reaching greatness, relentless, you survive. They never lose hope when everything's cold and the fighting's near. It's deep in their bones, they'll ride into smoke when the fire is fierce. Oh, pick yourself up, 'cause legends never
welcome back everybody for the Saturday LCK Analyst Desk, and today we are joined by Jung and Lee, Kuro, and Gorilla. Hello! And this is Season with the translation. Fredit BRION takes on T1 in the week number 4 of the LCK, and we are having an intense competition between the middle of the pack teams. T1 took game number 1 up against Fredit BRION, and they are one step closer joining the West bracket in the LCK. T1 was able to steamroll in game number 1. So what's your take on the draft, guys? Because we saw Chieftain playing for the mid role, and his decision was Syndra. We had a jungler playing on the mid lane. And to be honest, when junglers play on the lanes, they don't play well. But Chieftain was really doing a great job, so I'm really impressed. And also, he had a bit of an easy matchup going up against Seth, a melee champion. I thought Faker would just bully the lane on picks like Orianna, but this time around, actually Faker focused on the team play, and he tried his best to get control during the invasion and also team fights. Because T1 had a strong matchup in the top and bottom lane, they went for Seth, a very consistent player coming in to finish their comp. And Zeus, on this Jace up against Sion, he was able to have a lot of lead thanks to the Talia scan coming up to the top lane. And that was actually the highlight of this game. So let's take a look at the highlights over here. Fredit BRION needed a lot of power coming out from mid and jungle, but T1 at the same time they were able to show the reason why they took Talia as the first pick. Seth actually freezes the wave and clears out that control ward, and he spotted Udyr rotating up to the top lane, so warning ping comes up. So Zeus actually steps back to a safer position. And he waits for his teammates to join this fight. Because of the lane priority from top and mid lane, Elim was able to pick up the scuttle, and then he invades to the enemy jungle camp in order to spot the Udyr in the jungle. So he sneaks into this red camp, and he just waited until showed where he was. He was camping in this jungle all day long, and also a fight breaks out around this red camp, and Zeus, based on his lane control, was able to also rotate down to this jungle fight. And then Hoya just gets bullied by the damage output from this Jace, and then T1 easily wins this 2 versus 2 fight coming out in a very early phase of the game. And then at the same time, meanwhile, down on the bottom lane, another trade happens in favor of T1. The laners were in a very good spot on the side of T1, so Ellen was able to actually easily find the enemy jungler and also kind of bully him. With his power coming out from Fed Talia after getting some kills, T1 was able to snowball down the game. So Fredit BRION was looking for some actions to happen, so camps in the top lane. However, unfortunately, Seth was the one that showed up on the top lane, and the wave keeps shoving in. So Fredit BRION looks for some action to happen. But you can see all of the T1 players are almost gathered up to the top side of the map already. So Hoya even invests his TP in order to join this fight. However, Rel didn't have her flash to make some miracle team fight to happen, and they looked very split in this fight. So T1 simply just won that fight based on their power level. And also, it was really impressive to see T1 actually grouping up for fights, because usually when a team is very ahead of the opponents, they usually go for 1-3-1 rotation, but T1 was really ready to counter the actions coming out from the opponents. They were not having their guards down. T1 had a very perfect setup from the beginning of the game until the very end. So let's take a look at the POG for game 1. It's gonna be Korea on Thresh. We actually barely had support POG prior to this week, number 4, but now they're starting to take the spotlight as well. Perfect KDA scoreline on this Thresh performance, and we saw that Kyria has already made 16 duo kills in lane, but he added more in this game. And he was really smart catching the timings when the opponents were looking for some actions down on the bottom lane, and he perfectly blocked those attempts. And I think a lot of bottom duo actually say that they don't have enough impact in game, but I don't think that's the meta actually. I think the bottom players are also able to exert a lot of dominance all around the map. I don't think so, because T1's top side was super ahead and strong. T1's bottom was also able to pop off like that. And Kyria was able to pick up 4 out of 9 in this POG vote. And Kyria had an interview with Faker in the previous POG interview, and he was able to celebrate his 600th game in the LCK. But today, with this victory, Faker picked up his 400th victory here in the LCK history. And T1 can leap up to the west side of the LCK with another game victory. So let's check out in game number 2.
Thank you so much, Ji-sun, for the wonderful translation of the analyst desk. Great to hear about Kyria picking up the player of the game, as I feel like he did a lot. You did vote for Gumayusi. I thought that bottom lane together absolutely did Dunkaroo down there in the bottom side. So absolutely deserved at the end of the day.
To me, like, the one clear standout player, I was saying it before we got into the Faker 400 win moment, I feel like the one clear standout player to me in this 9-man roster that T1 are running is LM. I feel like he works with both rosters extremely well. He has been a phenomenal jungle player. His Talia pick here was what held the top side of the map together and helped Faker, turn that that matchup back into his favor, obviously, as he hit post 6, got that kill in the mid lane against Chieftain. And he's looked fantastic. The bottom lane was just this isolated issue for Fredit BRION. I feel like Fredit BRION really threw that chance to kind of scale up away by constantly engaging, playing very desperately. And when you're losing in mid, you're losing control of the top side of the map. Sometimes you do feel desperate. You do feel like you have to make a play like that, especially when you pick the rel and you do have that strong engage. But Kyria outplayed them super hard, and it just got harder and harder for them to make those types of plays, but they kept doing it. So things fell apart very quickly. We see no substitutions for T1, and it's not a shocker considering how that first game went. They're not like, oh, they're going to first pick Kaisa, so we're putting Teddy in for this one. Don't think you really need that level of strategy, perhaps, for this series. Don't think so.
Yeah, absolutely. And T1 say, hey, by the way, guys, Talia is really good. You should probably ban it like we are going to, because we don't want you to first pick that one. Avelios immediately the follow-up ban. That's a couple of bans already into the 80 carry role. So just trying to take away that potential second pick after maybe a first pick Kaisa if T1 don't ban it themselves.
Yeah. See the ban on Umpty's Olaf. I think that's going to be pretty consistent throughout what could be another game. We'll see. I'm not surprised by this one in the least. Only today and tomorrow left on 11.2. Then we take that break you guys were talking about yesterday. I think we'll see a big shift away from Olaf, but still relevant for 2 more days here is the Gnar ban again against Zeus here. Something that you kind of really have to consider, and it's a strong pickup early in the draft for T1 if you do leave that open. As scrolling through his Faker to decide what they want to ban for the last one. They're going to take away the rel instead of the Kaisa, which I do like because it gives you the ability. I mean, you've weakened the Kaisa pick slightly with this. As please don't. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Yeah. Please don't. Not like this. Not game number 2 like this. I like the Seraphine pick for sure. And maybe Chieftain is going to throw caution to the wind and say, okay, I'm playing Seraphine. I feel like she's not that difficult, I think it's maybe something you could pick up. But I don't know. Maybe it'll be flexed to the bottom side.
Well, that's
I don't
the
know.
power.
If it's a flex. I guess the flex to the mid lane is more relevant.
Yeah, that's the power of this pick in B1, that you can put it in the mid lane, you can play it bottom. It can turn any seemingly stable lane in the bottom side of the map into one that's a lot more volatile, one that can be very oppressive. And it's a stable matchup in the mid. It can turn it into a very late game, tanky game like we've seen many times before. And we will see the Orianna taken away here. So no synergy with the potential Udyr pick that I think Fredit BRION were definitely considering here in the second rotation. They didn't pick it with Udyr when they had it open last time, so there's a chance that they just simply weren't going to pick it at all. And we might just see Chieftain play Syndra again. So we'll see the Graves lock in here. And I think Syndra is a safe pick here. I mean, it's definitely... Okay, they're going to take the Xayah instead, but now you're wondering, like, okay, what's Chieftain going to play if that gets banned away?
I don't even know if they use the ban against Chieftain, you know? Let him play as Syndra. It's not gonna make too much of an effect on Faker, it feels like.
Yeah.
As maybe they'll go ahead and pick up the Udyr for themselves alongside the Orianna. We'll see if LM wants to play that pick. Seems kind of like an obvious one with the Olaf band, but they're thinking about the Pantheon, and they actually will be locking that in.
I think the Pantheon is really good for Seraphine because if you're, you can threaten kills in the mid lane against her, whereas otherwise she's pretty safe and she can actually push that lane really hard. And the same is true of this Xayah Seraphine bot duo that we might see as well. It seems like that's more likely what we're going to see, but only time will tell. Now, the Pantheon can also be a very good, ganking champion against a lane that is going to be pushed, where you see that threat in the bot lane non-stop against the Kai'Sa. So I like this because it's very easy to make a big impact on the bottom two lanes of the map.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a great ball carrier as well, obviously, so it fits in the composition already. And now we're going to see more top laners banned away. We saw this the last time around. Not really much focus on the other lanes and stuff like that.
I wouldn't mind a Scion ban here, I'm going to ban the Rakan instead. Because, you can see with the Ornn or the Scion, like the Seraphine pick, if it is mid lane and you do see the Moonstaff build, like, it is so difficult to kill those tanky frontliners. But ban the Rakan instead.
Rakan gets banned. Xayah Rakan, of course. Udyr gets taken away from LM for that Orianna Udyr combo that I was talking about before. And, giving credit to the fact that the Pantheon can be flexed, of course. Now, what is going to be the next pick here for T1? It will be the Renekton for Zeus up in the top side.
I think that this really pushes the potential for a Scion pick. You just kind of sit up there and take the hit. They go Gragas instead. This is also another stable, safe matchup into the Renekton. And we'll see the Alistar lock in, which means that this mid Seraphine is T1 assumed as well with the Rakan ban. So the only question left here is what support T1 will have in that bottom side with Kai'Sa. And I mean, it could be something as simple as Nautilus or Leona. Just keep it simple, keep it safe. Nico,
Whoa.
Not sure about that one. Not in this matchup.
Yeah, no Callista alongside of it and all that jazz, but a range support into Alistar, I like it, but not going to be the case this time around. As here we go, we have our compositions ready, and an insane amount of kind of frontal engage from the side of T1, so immediately that just makes me think the Seraphine ultimate is going to get a lot of value if they just run straight into Fredit BRION. But again, we need to see how that's going to go.
Yeah.
If it even matters, the compositions this time around. Because in game number 1, it didn't really, because Fredit BRION just lost every single lane, and that was that.
Yeah, and the matchups, I mean, the composition that Fredit BRION drafted really was very weak behind. The draft that they have this game, I feel like, is a little bit easier to execute while behind. The damage output that Graves is going to have later on in the game is pretty strong. They have really strong defensive engages with the Encore, when Seraphine decides to charm as... Okay, this looks like a bug on swap. I think we're probably not gonna see
You know what? Maybe Umti is playing Seraphine mid, and Graves is and Chieftain is playing Graves.
You know what? That's actually
That's a thing.
Yeah, that's actually a thing that could happen. I didn't know that was legal, but
Because-
I guess it is possible.
Oh yeah, it's legal. we've had all sorts of fun.
Okay, yeah, that actually
that
makes sense.
before.
Yeah, so that's definitely a weird one, but all right.
Just the fact that they have this graphic prepared and everything makes me believe that it's not just a swap bug. So here we go,
Guess
going
so.
into the game, and Umti is playing Seraphine mid.
Okay.
And,
Yep, there it is.
you know, you prepared Wolf for Chieftain and his mid lane off rolling. Do you perhaps have any information
No, I do
on
not.
Umti's mid lane off
I
rolling?
do not have any.
And if he's played any Seraphine in recent times.
I mean, I think everybody's played a little bit of Seraphine mid, and dabbled with it. She's one of those champions that when she was released, everyone was saying she was, like in Korea, a lot of people were saying she was very weak, but then people were saying very shortly after she was very strong and very OP. And then she was banned in solo queue in like all of my games around her release, and you know, I imagine the top level was probably banned even more. And it's a champion you talked about earlier. It's not that difficult to play at the, you know, even at the highest level. You know, it's very simple. It's very basic. You know, you shoot your skill shots out. They're very forgiving, and you know, they go through minions. Like the E goes through minions, so it's very easy to hit that and harass while also clearing. And she's very powerful in late game engages, you know, defensively, especially against something like the Divey Renekton Pantheon. So I like it for how it's going to function in this comp, and I don't think it really matters whether Chieftain or Umti, either of these jungle players are playing it, because it is one of those fairly easy to execute champions. And it's also so new that like no one's really amazing at it yet. So we'll see.
Yeah. It's also a champion that can basically make the waves disappear into thin air. So if you're hoping to not fight up against Faker in the lane too much, you can just press a couple of buttons and bye-bye wave, essentially.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think Elim is going to be the most critical player for T1 in this you know, early to mid game, at making sure that these lanes, the mid lane especially, you know, he can capitalize on the fact that Seraphine will probably keep that pressure and will kind of keep that lane pushed. Kind of like he did on the Talia just previously, when we saw the same thing out of Chieftain when he was shoving into Faker super hard. You can see it in the minimap right now. Like, it's literally happening, because this is just how this goes. So when he hits 6, I think he's going to make a really big impact in this game, and that's when T1 can really start to get a nice lead.
It's a lot of action down in the bottom side, you'll notice. Gumayusi and Kari are really trying their best to put on the pressure once again. This was one of the big reasons why they dominated last game, was because Karia and Guma were just able to put on some insane pressure and get multiple kills down on the bottom side. So they're looking to recreate that. It's definitely a different matchup, of course. I feel like the Xayah versus Kai'Sa one is, I feel like it's a little bit more skilled. You know, they have kind of similar auto attack ranges, and Kai'Sa's got to dodge the feathers. There's a lot of harass that comes out from the Kai'Sa early on, like in levels 1 through 4. That can be pretty annoying, but you'll notice that Guma has already taken a lot of damage.
Yeah.
So Henna and Delight are having a bit more fun this time around.
A little bit of extra sustain in this lane for them, and you know, if you trade up early like they were, and then you end up getting, you know, when they come back to push the lane on their end, you know, you're at half health, because Nollis isn't going to offer you anything in that regard. So Keria, I think, is also going to be wanting this lane to be pushed as much as possible so he can roam to the mid lane, because he and Elim together can make a lot of plays onto Umti when, you know, when he is being aggressive, when he is shoving this lane, especially again post 6. Faker's holding his own up here pretty well. The limiting resource of the Seraphine is the mana bar, as Atlas and I were talking about the other day when we did see a few Seraphine mid games. And when that runs out, you know, that's usually the back timing. Go ahead and grab a tier, head right back to lane.
Yep, absolutely. Start stacking it up just so you can actually play your character.
Oh, don't miss that one. So easy to not miss it, though.
Yeah, even has, little sparkles that come out
Yeah.
extra on your auto attack, makes things even easier. It's a fun champion. It's pretty intuitive, right? And now we have this engage down on the bottom side. Delight is going to eat a bunch of damage, but so will Keria. Ignites will be traded from the two supports, as well as the heal on Henna and the flash on Gumayusi. So
Yeah, big trades.
nice little win for Bro.
So yeah, it's really nice that the flash is gone for Gumayusi, because that can mean that he just ends up getting caught by the Alistar and dying. That's something you really want to have in that lane matchup. On the other hand, Delight is still got his, so he even has the ability to flash in. There's so many ways that lane becomes a lot scarier for T1, which they've been trying to really force the issue in the bottom side of the map to get that lead, to get that pushing power, and it just has backfired. And this is the Xayah versus Kai'Sa matchup that, is considered a counter pick for a reason. It's very safe. And it's working out so far here for Fredit BRION. Hasn't gotten them a lead, but it has made this lane way more stable. As you can see, Keria is already looking for that roam with LM that I was talking about.
Yeah, Seraphine, she has her W and some decent disengage, but if you can get on top of her and just blow her up, it's pretty ridiculous how squishy she can be. A lot of tools to try to avoid that, as I mentioned. If you get a couple of guys in there with a lot of CC, you could make it happen. We do have Ellen down on the bottom side, speaking of which, but Chieftain is here as well. As the engage will come in, Delight may have to flash this one, and, well, okay. He's just going to get blown up and deleted. There you go. First Blood decides not to flash, thought he could survive the Pantheon engage, but he was wrong.
I think there's a misjudgment here for Fredit BRION as well. As all in by Faker.
Oh boy. Well,
He gets charmed,
takes a
though.
lot of damage himself. He's going to get ulted by Umpty. He does have QW. He's going to be keeping Umpty at a distance, and that's going to be enough. As after that ultimate is used, there wasn't much else for him to do to Faker.
You need your second proc to really do the extra damage, and he was on a really long cooldown. Like in those trades, your W has a really long cooldown, so when you use that one, you're like, oh, I really gotta hit that third skill. So this is a misjudgment by Fredit BRION, because like, okay, Chieftain's here, so we should be fine even if Ellen's gonna rotate over. But they didn't have vision, and the Pantheon can just hard engage, whereas Graves cannot. Like, Chieftain gets one auto off in this case. Like, he can't do anything else, unfortunately. As this is going to be one of those situations where you see, okay, he's got his double here, uses it on the Q to get the extra damage, then charms, and he's so desperately trying to proc a third one, that's why he's running away. Well, the cooldown on the W, he's probably still got, like, 10 seconds on that, and he just can't get it.
Yeah. Note that Faker is pretty much running at him the entire time, outside of the moments where he was trying to dodge abilities, because he knew that, okay, Seraphine's out of cooldowns, I can engage here, I can still run at him even though I'm really low. Even lower than the Seraphine, because I'm Orianna. I'm going to be able to maneuver my ball around a lot sooner than Umti can do the damage to me. So, nice work from Faker. In the bottom side, you got to note that Pantheon can in fact flash and engage on you, so mistake there. And T1 will once again get a nice lead in this game. It's not as crazy as game number 1, but still a very comfortable beginning start here for T1.
Yeah, and this bottom lane was where it felt like Fredit BRION might have had their anchor hold on the game. They had like maybe a firm grasp here where things were stable, Keria couldn't roam, but that is changing very quickly. Yes, they will be able to keep this lane push. Chieftain is here as well. They're going to actually control some vision. Oh, we might see potentially a Drake play here because they know as well that LM's on the top side of the map. I think he was spotted by a ward, that control ward you see on the left side of the map. I think he actually walked into that. But either way, they're going to group up for this Mountain Drake play. They have lane prio on the bottom side of the map. They could do this. They don't have it in mid, but it's a pretty easy rotation down for the Seraphine, so just going to be traded objectives. It's a good start here for Fredit BRION in that regard.
Yeah, at least they don't lose both.
Yeah.
That's certainly
An
a
upgrade
win.
from last game.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, already we can see a couple of these lanes are beginning to get a bit out of hand. Like the top lane, nice lead for the Renekton, as you would expect from the early game. And also the mid lane has immediately gone Faker's way after that.
Oh.
It's okay. Well, a nice try, but Faker just walks away with his flash still in hand.
I mean, I think you know, Umpty clearly shows an understanding of this champion, but not a mastery of it. Whereas Faker seems to clearly know the matchup. And obviously because Faker, even though he hasn't played it yet, he has played a million more games of solo queue than Umpty has. And he's faced Seraphine so many times in said mid lane. He knows how to deal with this pretty well. In this case, it was more of a whiff than a dodge by Faker, but Faker's understanding of that last exchange, like you were talking about, knowing that even when he's low on health, he can just continue to push forward. He knows the cooldowns. It's just it's a mismatch. So again, you know, if it was Lava playing this, it would probably look a little bit different, right? But unfortunately, that's just not the case today. And you and I have cast many games, even together across our careers, where sometimes these unfortunate things happen, injuries happen, health issues come up, people get sick, and sometimes you don't get to play the perfect game you want. At least this is a tough matchup for Fredit BRION against T1 that even with all their players, it's still going to be hard to win. It's not like they're up against Live Sandbox, and it's like, oh, this is a must-win for us, and actually we don't have all of our players. Trying to put a positive spin on it here for Fredit BRION, but that's just a whiff for Umpty in the mid lane.
A nice try. Didn't actually pan out. And now we have Pantheon down on the bottom side. He did walk over... Oh, no, he didn't, actually. That was T1 vision. So they don't know that he is exactly here. And you can see that they're still playing it relatively respectfully. They're not moving too far up the lane. They know this possibility is here. LM does have Grand Skyfall if he just wanted to really force the issue, but as you mentioned, the Xayah and her Featherstorm, and even an Alistar and his bit of disengage is pretty nice. They wait enough time, and they think they're safe. They've got Chieftain nearby. They have the teleport coming in. The engage goes down onto Keria, and they will, in fact, pick up this kill. So finally, Fredit BRION getting something going down on the bottom side.
Yeah, really unfortunate the kill went to Delight, but, you know, it's still a really nice exchange for them. Unfortunately, Faker's still going to get some pressure done here in the mid lane, and the top side of the map is also going very badly for them, but hey, you know, it's a start, right? The Xayah will scale very well later on in the game, so will the Kai'Sa, but you know, that's one of your strong points here, especially with the Graves. Like, the Graves and the Xayah together are some of the things that, you know, the extra range damage and those extended fights we'll have later on that is really important, as Zeus is actually just proxying at this point, not scared of anything.
Yeah. He has Dominus. He's like, okay, well, if you really want a hard engage, I'm ready to throw down. But Hoya knows his current place in the lane. He's down 30 CS and won't have much luck up there. So Zeus has been doing a nice job, kind of quietly up in the top side, dominating. He does pick up the Gore Drinker. We're still on 11.2. So
yeah, I mean,
still a nice item. It's good on 11.3 as well, but absolutely very, very nice.
Yeah, much less good, but, you know, it's still viable. So, Keria looking for the dredge line here with LM. They hard commit. That's some trust right there. Perhaps misplaced from LM, but the trust was real. They're not done with this yet, though. They're like, well, if I'm going to commit my Grand Starfall, then we're actually going to make something happen here. As Faker's gotten 4 plates, and they were just using this extra pressure to grab one more down here in the bottom lane.
I feel like they could have, but actually they won't. And Faker's just going to straight up take this entire turret in the mid lane. So he gets everything, even the extra plate, and he's going to take that down at 13 minutes in the game. So Faker already in just an insane spot. He's 1-0 with that one kill. He has 142 CS. And just absolute domination once again. Zeus trying to put on the pressure up on the top side. And Hoya looks like he's had enough. He wants to get fighting here. Zeus will have to back out of range first before he does pack the Dominus. And Hoya says, well, okay.
He didn't have to flash, so I still like this trade for Zeus because the wave is still pushing. So he just procs Domination, gets the extra turret plate, knows that he can actually trade, you know, in the brush there outside of the turret, you know, head towards that. Has his double slice and dice, and we're not getting that ability name except his E, his dash. He gets the double dash, and then it's like, okay, well, we can't fight this anymore. We're gonna go back in time a little bit here and watch this exchange as just a focus fire here onto Keria. The feathers connect really nicely. Delight gets the kill there actually before the Graves. As like the Graves ultimate misses the kill there, unfortunately. So it's really sad that that goes to Delight, because definitely Chieftain would love to have that extra gold.
And now we're rolling up here on this Infernal Drake. They're just going to start it, and they're on Vision. So You would imagine that T1 absolutely do not want to let this go, as teleports will come in and the front line is just going to get blown up. Chieftain way too far forward. Keria soaks a lot of the damage, as does LM, but nobody's dying on the side of T1 somehow, some way.
So good.
Look at these incredibly low health bars. It just doesn't matter. All 5 members of T1 will survive. They're going to take the Infernal Drake, and now a 7,000 gold lead at 15 minutes.
Keria's dredge line there to peel is so beautifully played. T1 actually understanding how much LM can actually take in this fight, because he's the one who actually really has to turn this around. Because as it starts off, you see the double teleports coming through, and tons of damage on the Chieftain, right? He goes down instantly, but then the charm is pretty good. And look at LM's health. He's super low, and Keria actually peels for him. He throws a spear in, and the bottom side of this fight is obviously going to go T1's way. They're so far ahead, and it's all it takes, man. It was really greedy to look for that Drake play. Desperate times call for desperate measures, but Chieftain.
Oh boy. I think he is just dead. Yeah, there it is. Shockwave comes in, and Faker picks up a 4th kill in game number 2. And yeah, they're just kind of running over Bro at this point in time. Running through their jungles. And I absolutely agree. You can't just run at the Infernal Drake and expect to win it in that scenario.
Yeah, you just really can't.
Expect T1 to not respond or something. Like, I think that was just not the right play there. And now a teleport in the top side. They're looking to extend that lead as much as possible by taking down some more turrets.
Yep. I mean, the bottom side of the map, a little bit of extra value for Henna, minutely. He knows that, you know, without vision, they actually don't know where Keria is. They don't know where LM is, so he can't push it further. Once we see this rotation through, he decides not to back, and he's staying bottom. That's all they're getting right now in this trade. T1 are very happy with this exchange. Ooh, nice cask, though.
That was pretty good, but no follow-up. Like, seriously.
Henna's on the
Nobody's
bottom
getting
lane.
in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with that, they're going to break the inhibitor already. It's very, very early on. And so they decide they're not going to take down the inhibitor just yet. They don't want to give that free gold over to Fredit BRION with the super minions. And, you know, I feel like they probably could have just taken it down, but they don't want to take any risk in this set.
I mean, T1...
He's kind of had a free game so far.
T1 as an org just doesn't want to take any risks, I think, at this stage. Don't want to, you know, especially with the curse, what were they, 1 and 6, I think it was, in game 2s. You know, in this game 2, maybe just cross your T's, dot your I's. As I said with Max yesterday, you know, dot your J's. It was 2 days ago, but yeah. I mean, look, you're ahead. There's no reason to force a fight on this inhibitor. They knew that Henna was on the bot side of the map when they pushed the issue on the inhibitor turret, but they saw he backed, so back off. Cask was down, but really just want to play this one safe, play around objectives. There's no objectives up at the moment, so just kind of step back into lane, keep pushing the issue, get deep vision on the blue side of the map. And that's what they're doing here is, you know, it's a very controlled game here from T1. They're 10,000 gold up. As long as they don't make any big mistakes or overextend, you know, losing a fight on that inhibitor potentially is one way Fredit BRION come back. Especially because they have, you know, this Encore ability, which is so good at defensive engages.
No mistakes, only cleanliness from T1. I don't mind it.
It's not as fun to watch, you know, but it is
Yeah.
gonna be, it is what's gonna get them a 2-0, you know, for the first time in a while.
Yeah, it does mean that we're going to kind of have one of these extremely one-sided series again. Second series of the night is going to be pretty nice.
Fingers crossed.
The KT versus Afrika one. You would expect that to be a pretty fun and potentially we'll even go to a game 3. We haven't had those since Thursday, but you never know. We'll have to wait and see how that one goes because this one, as we mentioned, is you know, kind of looks like I'm watching a replay from solo queue, right?
Yeah.
Where one team is kind of just bopping the other team on the head.
I mean, it's
Mid laner's ahead, the top laner's ahead, bottom lane won. It's like, okay, well.
it's a very patient version of solo queue. I feel like if this was solo queue, T1 would have face planted in at that inhibitor fight and probably would have messed up the engage because they're not a pro team and would have like thrown, and then we'd be looking at like a 40-minute game where Fredit BRION claw it back and everyone's yelling at the jungler in chat for some reason. But yeah,
Lots of pings everywhere.
lots of pings, lots of question mark pings in particular. But T1 are just running down the clock, basically, on these objectives by taking every lane, pushing carefully. Zeus proccing his, destruction on the turret. Demolition on the turret. I call it destruction. In the mid lane, and just getting all the waves and soaking up the experience. Look at all the wards. There's a ward. There's a line of wards from top to bottom in the jungle, so there's no mystery about the movements of Fredit BRION. So they have everything lined up perfectly for this Drake fight. If Fredit BRION contest the Drake fight and fail, then T1 get both. If they don't contest the Drake, then T1 probably get both. So it's like, okay, if T1 just plays like this, how can they lose? Which is very much like, SKT of old LCK, very slow, very careful. A lot of people will say very resonant sleeper, but hey, if it's going to get T1 a 2-0, get the fans off their back this week to close it out, I think T1 will take it.
Yeah, they looking at a 2-0 and also 4-4. Definitely a rough start with their hard schedule and, some bumps along the road, obviously, for T1. But if they could at least even it up at around the halfway mark, right before the end of the first round robin, you're going to be feeling decent. You're not going to be feeling amazing, but certainly you expect a lot out of a roster like this. So
Yeah.
having them at least at a 50% series win rate would be nice. And that's exactly what we're looking at here.
Oh no. Killer Instinct.
I swear I had this happen earlier today to me. The Kaiser's just so far ahead. She hits the W. It's like, okay, I guess I'm dead.
It's very
and
scary.
Combos you.
Well,
It's pretty strong.
yeah, I think there might be some people wondering why T1, or rather why Fredit BRION did not try to trade the Drake for the Baron. And I mentioned earlier the line of wards are across the map. So they couldn't have made that happen without T1 knowing. It would have been too greedy. This is the only fight they could really take. This is the fight that, we've all been waiting for as the time ticked down. And this really just has to be a perfect charm engage. And they're going to have a cast maybe to start it off. So difficult to pull this off. Umpty's caught. Oh, no.
Great angle here from Keria. Easily able to shut that one down. And now you don't have anything from the Seraphine. You have no follow-up. Great follow-up engage from Delight, but a little bit too little, too late, as Faker will run down a couple of guys on the side of Fredit BRION. And so 3 kills in favor of T1, and now it looks like they might go for that Baron.
Yeah, and it's like leaving your wallet at home, the one way you get what you want. You got the money in your pocket, you think, you walk up, you're like, okay, we're going to have this perfect exchange, we're going to have this really awesome charm, this is maybe a way we fight this back, and then, boom, first person gets caught, first person is dead, doesn't get the charm he wants, it's empty. Target selection is perfect for T1, and I mean, you don't win that fight without that ultimate. That's why you drafted it. That's why that's what you're playing around in these later game fights, these objectives. And unfortunately, just instantly caught. Like, watch this again. This is from the vision perspective that we have from, outside. They didn't have vision of where Keria was, and he just gets a perfect dredge line in, and it's like that's it. It's over. There's nothing else after that. None of this even matters.
Yeah, certainly felt that way. The charm was just the saddest thing in the world. I mean, even that flash feather drawback maneuver from Henna was not landed. And so, nothing really going right. Empty's charm just sailing through one member and not hitting anybody else. I feel like T1 did spread pretty nicely for that. If you're in a game like this, you kind of, what can you do but try to practice against some of the newer champions that are in, some of those newer mechanics that you might not be as used to.
Yeah.
We've heard some pro players talking about how they feel like part of the reason why Rel and Seraphine are very strong is because teams still are getting used to the way that they engage and their kits and stuff like that. So
yeah,
cool to see.
I think that the setup was good there, the split was good, the focus was good, and T1 just seemed much more prepared against the Seraphine than Umpty has mastery of it. And they didn't have vision. It's hard to put too much blame on Fredit BRION here because this game has just been so difficult the entire time. They've had no vision control. All these waves have been pushed. Like, T1 are playing the safest game. They're the tortoise in the tortoise in the hare, and slow and steady is going to win this race. Although it's like the fastest tortoise I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's quite nice, actually. Just riding on the back of this tortoise. Getting in there. It helps when they have the Baron buff. It makes the tortoise run faster as well. Bro are going to give it one last go. They're going to defend it here at the inhibitor turret, or at least attempt to. As here comes Grand Skyfall right into your back line, as he would love to get that execute onto Umpty. It is not going to land. Elam is even emoting him. No chill from this jungler. As T1, it looks like now they've had enough time, enough safety, and they will look to end this game.
Yep, just going to be an easy cleanup here on these objectives. And you need to push this minion wave a little bit further forward. This Faker wants more. Umpty going to get out of that one, but he's not going to be able to do anything. Wow.
Oh man, they're actually going to kill him.
Yikes.
Okay. Well, there you go. 25.5 minutes. And that will be the end of that series. Not much else to say. Just utter domination from T1 here up against Fredit BRION. 2 games that were just around 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And really no hope there for Fredit BRION.
This is not the game that fans wanted to watch this week. This is not the game that we thought maybe Fredit BRION with good synergy. Maybe they can outplay T1. Maybe they bring us to a third game. Like, there's hope, right? There was the hope of maybe an upset or maybe a more interesting series. But then, you know, we got the news, you know, earlier this afternoon. Lava can't play today. It's Chieftain in the mid lane. It was Umpty then in the second game in the mid lane. Didn't get to play the game they wanted. So for Fredit BRION, this is a really frustrating day of games. Like, you could see the look on the players' faces when it ended. Headsets tossed off instantly. This is not the day you wanted. This is not the day you prepped for, but it's the day you got. And on the other side, T1, you know, we saw an interview with Fomos where a lot of the players, Faker in particular, are saying he doesn't agree with some of the coaching decisions that are happening. The team atmosphere is looking really bad right now. He's even honest about it. Faker's usually not honest about these types of things, right? But he's actually going out there and saying, like, on the record, we are not happy right now. There are issues in our team, and things are looking really bad. I think this is a 2-0 that you expected. Okay, this might be a rough one against Fredit BRION. They won against KT. This is going to be harder than we thought, maybe. For T1, I think you're sighing a breath of relief here. Like, not only did we 2-0, but we crushed it. It's the kind of 2-0 that gets you your confidence levels back up to where they should be. This is the kind of series for T1 where you're like, okay, this went exactly as it should. If we're the team that we are supposed to be, if this is the team that we aspire to be, the best team with this insane roster, the expectations the fans have, we lived up to everything today. And yeah, there's the asterisk of the Umpty and Chieftain mid lane situation. But we crushed it. Like, we did not look weak. We didn't make any mistakes. We played perfect games of League of Legends. And I think T1 can walk away from this week of matches happy that it ended this way. I've got a whole week off now for Lunar New Year to prepare for the next week of matches on a new patch. And I think this is like as the best ending possible for T1 this week, where no one can really be upset with them. There was no issues whatsoever today.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when we first looked at the schedule and we saw this match, we just assumed that it would be, oh, okay, T1 should easily take that one. But, you know, a lot of the other circumstances that did surround the build-up into this series, what with T1's struggles and, of course, Fredit BRION and Lava, but more so T1's struggles. We weren't 100% sure, but it's good to kind of build confidence once again, as you mentioned. So some cool stuff happened in this. You know, we got to see Seraphine in the mid lane once again. Faker just kind of making it obvious that, well, I'm the mid lane player, you're not.
Yeah.
Umpty giving him a lot of thumbs up in this series, so being a good sport of it at least.
So close to getting the kill. Like, it was actually timed basically perfectly. It's so unfortunate that kill did not go to him. We don't know how much it would have changed this game, as this is when Fredit BRION decided they were going to take the Infernal Drake, despite not having vision control or positional advantage, and still had a decent fight, but T1 just handled this so perfectly. Keria in particular, with a really nice dredge line there, so that they couldn't even trade back another kill. As things just start going from bad to worse here, as Umpty is caught when he's trying to set up for his Encore engage, and I mean, T1 just pushed down. Zeus, has the Sterix, so he is just basically unkillable at this stage, and they just always push down the lanes carefully, never overextended, never made any mistakes. They gave no chances for Fredit BRION to come back.
They did not. We'll listen in to what they say here at the end. if they have anything interesting from this series.
뭐야 억제기 없어 우리. 억제기. 뭐야? 끝내죠.
Actually, Kamiyusi's like, wait, this inhibitor's still up. We gotta kill the inhibitor.
We've all been there. Diving the fountain, the inhibitor's still alive. They took a ridiculous amount of damage from the turrets, by the way.
The minions weren't on them, so it's like they just have that extra tenacity to end up falling.
조심해야 돼.
And they get the kill onto Umpty.
Faker's got this cheeky grin after he misses the shockwave. But they get the kill in the end. And that was it. Headsets off. They take their big win. And, well, the most action in this game actually happened in the top side. You'll note the difference between the Orianna and the Seraphine. Props to Faker for asserting his dominance, perhaps we can say, as the ruler of the mid lane.
Yeah, and
Yeah, there you have it.
you know, later on outside of lane, like the Orianna's gonna have so much more value in a game like this where you're ahead. Incredible props to Zeus for really maximizing the power of Renekton. Like into a Gragas, you usually get a small lead, and the Gragas can kind of bring it back if there's a lot of attention in the top lane. But because he didn't get any attention, he was pushing, he was proxying waves, he was proccing his why can't I never get the name right? The Demolish. Was proccing the Demolish on the turret every single time it was up. He had a fantastic game in the top lane as well, in an isolated vacuum up there where just simply there was no extra pressure on him. And, you know, T1 looking very solid in a game where opponents didn't have a mid laner. I said this is going to feel great for you heading into a break like this, but at the same time, we can't look at this win and say, wow, T1 is back to form. This is it. This is the roster. Don't read too much into that.
No, although, you know, I do like this.
I do too.
Based on their last performance as well. But guys, we do have the analysis desk ready to go, as well as the interview. So I'm going to hand it over to G-Sun for the translation.
T1 locked down a very solid victory with this performance, and they were able to leap onto the 5th place with this 4th victory of the split. And this time around, Umpty was the one playing the mid lane with this Seraphine. Other teams as well, when this kind of thing happened, we saw a lot of players kind of role swapping in this kind of accidents, and Seraphine was a good pick to kind of deal with this situation. But because he is a jungle main, he doesn't have the same amount of understanding of the mid lane. But outside of that, Faker was able to actually do a fantastic work on this Orianna during the lane. And Azir was open, so I thought Azir was actually would come up, but I guess T1's reaction into the Seraphine pick was Orianna. So there were some moments where, well, Faker was really good at going for some trades during the laning phase, and also Seraphine is actually really weak into the opponent's initiation. So T1, actually Pantheon Nautilus was a great pick to counter the Seraphine in the mid lane. I guess T1 had an edge over Fredit BRION in this pick and ban, but let's take a look at the game highlights. This time around, once again, Elim was the one that got the snowball go off. The Pantheon invades the enemy jungle and spotted Graves. So because he had this information, he actually go down to the bottom lane and camps there because Kai'Sa didn't have her flash up, so he wanted to protect his AD carry for sure. So it was a bit of a too obvious gank attempt coming out from both teams, but Xayah actually used her Q and E prior to that gank, so Nautilus landed its hook on Alistar, and that was connected to a very easy and clean kill. And Keria was able to land that hook in between the small minions, so that was also really a great play, a mechanical play coming out from Keria. And let's take a look at the second highlight where Fredit BRION wanted to open fight around this Drake. Just like the Korean commentator mentioned, they could have just hanged on a little bit and waited until their items to come online. Maybe there was a chance for them to turn the game around. So right here, the light went in for pulverize, but Kyria reacted really well with his flash, and then everything went wide, and T1 was able to pick up a very easy but solid victory in that team fight. T kind of played like a jungler in the team fight as well. T1 was down to below 15% in game number 2, but thanks to this game number 2, they were able to lift up the curse of game number 2. So let's take a look how. It was Faker on the mid lane, lifting up that curse. He had a very strong lane, and he was able to get a solo kill as well. I was expecting Orianna to come online in game number 1 as well, and I was looking forward to some of them solo kill coming out from this player, but Faker's choice was set in game number 1, but he came back to his iconic pick, Orianna, for game 2. This is what I was expecting from Faker, dominating the lane. A player who has been dominating this lane for a history is teaching a lesson to a newcomer who just recently role swapped for this one particular series, and it was really fun to see him exerting all the dominance in game 2. So let's invite Kyria Faker once again for their POG interview. Hello, congratulations. Congratulations, T1. You guys are now on the 5th place, and this is your first winning streak of the spring split. How are you feeling? I think we had a very clean victory in both games, so I think I'm pretty satisfied with our performance. And Faker, congratulations on winning your 400th game in the LCK. How are you feeling about that? I was below 2/3 of the win rate, but I'm happy that I was able to make it higher than 2/3 with that victory. I'm pretty much satisfied with our performance as well. And Faker, you were facing up against the junglers on the mid lane. Did T1 pay a lot of attention to that situation? What was the focal point of the mid picks? Because they had rookie mid laners on their team, so we didn't have enough data to analyze. But I wanted to kind of deal with the situation based on my basic kind of fundamental knowledge. And also, even though they did not have enough time to prepare, I think they showed up really strong in this kind of situation. Moving on to game number 1. You guys were dominating the lane with Aphelios Thresh comp. But in 11.2 patch, actually Aphelios is way ahead of Kai'Sa in terms of match history. It's like 4-0. So can you tell us about this matchup specifically? I think Aphelios, as long as he has his lane push priority, I think he can exert his dominance from the beginning till the end of the game, but we are confident in both picks. I also have a question over to Kyria. Well, actually, back in the days, Thresh actually maxed E for about 3 points, but these days, a lot of support players are now maxing the Lantern. Why is that? These days, Thresh does not take the position that front. They actually stay behind in order to save their lane partner. So I think maxing Lantern is really good. I have a question over to Faker about game number 1. We actually kind of wanted you to play some traditional AP or mage champion dominating the lane, but you actually went to set in game 1. Why was that? We had a lot of squishy members on our side. I wanted to be the solid front line and tank the damage.
그리고 이제 이 경기 같은 경우에는 캐리아
In game
선수가
number
이번
2,
시즌에 처음으로
Keria,
노틸러스를 픽했거든요.
you played
제가 이제
Nautilus for the
블러드
first
테스트 하면서
time
경기를 봤을
for the
때
split.
노틸러스 픽을 하면은 상대 조합에 약간 이니시가
But
들어갔을 때 좋다라고 생각을
I
해서
also pointed out
노틸러스를
that during the
했구나라고
analyst
생각했는데
desk,
노틸러스를
Nautilus is a really good
픽하게 된
counter
그 계기나
into
이유를 좀
Brio's
알 수
comp.
있을까요?
So can you tell us about that pick,
원래
especially?
이제 스라핀을 보고
It's a Seraphim
상대가
locked
미드까지
in,
쓸 수 있다 생각하고
so we
뭔가
knew that that's
레드
gonna be mid
팀이라서
or
오피까지 보고 싶다고
support
팀한테
swap.
어필해서
So because we were on the
뭔가
red
좀
side, I wanted to
라인전부터
wait
뭐
until
이상한 픽을
our
해서
5
박살내고
pick.
싶었는데
So I wanted to go with
조합을
something
오피까지
really strong
막상
and
가보니까
like crush the
이제
lane.
이니시가 필요하다 생각해서
But
노틸러스로
as the
선택했습니다.
draft went by and we were down onto the R5, I realized that we needed some initiation tool. And Faker, you said T1 is haunted or jinxed by a ghost for game number 2, but finally you guys were able to have a very clean win for game 2. Do you think the curse is lifted?
한번 깃든 망령이 쉽게 빠져나가지
That
않기
doesn't
때문에
really happen
앞으로도
easily, you know.
더
The
열심히
ghost is
노력해서
always
착하게
trying to
살도록 하겠습니다.
make it spooky, so I will keep behaving nice. In addition to that, I heard Kumayushi is having his birthday today. Any birthday wishes over to your AD carry?
망령이 생일 축하하고 앞으로는
Happy birthday, Kumayushi. And
사고 치지 말고
don't make
더 잘하는
any
분들과
issues
함께했으면
no more.
좋겠습니다.
And I hope you can become a great player.
그렇죠. 본인은 사고 한 번도 안 쳤거든요.
Because Faker never had a bad issue, you know. So very nice advice coming out from this veteran player and Keria.
생일 축하하고
Happy birthday.
생일 축하합니다.
Happy birthday.
박수.
Do not make any more troubles. That was the word from Faker over to Kumayushi. And your final opponent for round 1 will be DRX after a long holiday. How are we gonna prepare for that? Especially Keria, you'll be facing up against your former teammates P06 Soka.
지면은
If we lose that
두 명이서
series,
저를
I think
무지하게 공격할 것 같기 때문에
those two players will just bully me so bad.
제가 공격하도록
So
하겠습니다.
I will do my best to win that game, and I would like to pick on them. And Faker?
네, 저희가 지금 4패를 해놨는데
We
앞으로
lost
좀 많이
4 matches already,
패배를 싸우면 안 될 것 같아서
which means we
다음
should
경기도
not
꼭
lose
이기고
anymore. So we will make sure to
잘
win
준비해보도록
that upcoming
하겠습니다.
match, and we will prepare hard for the second round robin. So this will be the end of the interview with Keria Faker on the side of T1, and I'm gonna pass it back to our casters. Thank you.
감사합니다.
감사합니다.
Thank you so much, Ji-sun, as always.